Lately I've been thinking, what is the point of a spiritual awakening? Like, what is the point of going on this journey and becoming more spiritual or becoming more spiritually in touch? What is the point of all of this? For most of the summer, actually for most of the year, I've been in this, let's say, non-physical plane. I have been not operating in this, I don't even know what to call it. I don't like these terms, these spiritual lingo terms. I feel like they're limiting, but this 3D reality. And inside me, I've been in this world of transcendent and ascensions and experiences beyond this physical plane. You can't always be in another dimension, let's say. We are in this physical experience, you have to tend to other things. For the last month and a half, I've been heavily grounding into where I am physically and certain things I have to do, and going, more into my masculine energy, I guess you could say, to do these things. But that's a part of it, I believe, like lives and cycles. And sometimes for a soul to be on this path of like awakening to our true reality, and reality is an interesting topic because there's multiple realities. I think that's the concept of non-duality, where multiple realities can exist, and at the same time there's like one true reality of consciousness, of source, and we're all a fragment of that reality, almost like a tree branch where there's one source and we are all different branches and different experiences of life. We are all here to live different experiences of life. I've just been thinking, like, what is the point? What is the point to be aware? To be aware, the point of existence? I just don't think that that's everyone's incarnation. Like, that's not everyone's experience here on earth, is to question these paradoxes of life, to question life and death, to immerse themselves into this esoteric knowledge within. And like when you start, it's this rabbit hole, and there's knowledge within, there's knowledge without. And I feel like the more that you experience these things within, the more that you start to research these things outside of yourself as well, because your experience, even though it is original, it's not. You're having this experience because your soul chose a lifetime of awareness. Your soul chose a life where you get to explore being human from a spiritual knowledge perspective, but also from a human perspective. It's very difficult. And there's times I find myself, especially when I re-emerge, I guess you could say I re-emerge into the physical world. Like, I have things I need to do for what I incarnated to do. Because what I incarnated to do is not to be spiritual. I am a spiritual being. Like, we are souls before human, but I did not come to earth for that to be like my identity. That's not why I came here. I came here to be human and to have a human experience. That is like a trap, I guess. It's some soul's mission to be a spiritual teacher, I guess you could say. But for me, that was never what I felt like I incarnated to do. But at the same time, I need that connection. I need that connection to myself and connection to source, and understanding that what I'm here to do, I can do it because I am this infinite divine being. I chose to be here, and all this fear and all this illusions and all this conditioning and these systems injected in us is saying that we need them. It's not true, because if I just follow what's within, even if everything I've been taught, everything I have been conditioned and taught to believe is that, well, how would that make sense? How? You need to figure out the why, you need to figure out this. But then you follow this heart and what's within, you follow this non-linear path, and things magically start to appear along the way. It's like you walk the invisible path because you have faith and the way appears, right? So, and this is not going to make sense to a great amount of people, because a lot amount of people in this world, their soul has not chosen to awaken, but also some souls have. And I just don't think it's this hierarchy thing. I just want to explore topics and explore my experiences. I never want to teach or about anything. You know, when I first awakened spiritually, everyone's awakening is different. Mine was so dramatic to the point it was like immediate. Some people call this like kundalini. I think kundalini is associated to yoga. For me, it was through the heart. Through the heart chakra. It was like immediately understanding why I was here. That was my first one, because they don't stop. It's constantly exploring yourself. I think it's very, very difficult. At times I wish I was ignorant. I often wonder, like, is ignorant bliss? I think about that all the time. I destructed my entire life. And I'm grateful. I look back even like a few years ago, that life that I built externally, it was not the path of my soul, and letting that crumble. Not like I really had a choice, because I feel like if your soul is called to awaken this lifetime, it's called to awaken. You don't really have a choice. We have free will, but it's, for me, I feel like without a choice, everything crumbled beneath my feet, right? So I didn't have a choice but to go on this path of having nothing but my soul, and understanding that's the real riches, that's the real fulfillment. You don't need anything but your soul. Nothing matters. It doesn't. But at the same time, I feel like you can get to this point where you don't need anything, because you have that source and you have that connection to yourself, and you are escape from the matrix, or whatever you want to call it. But I do feel like it can be avoidance. Like, it can lean into avoidance. I felt like for a long time I lost so much of my ambition because of the spiritual path. I was like, well, I don't even care anymore. I was like, well, I have this light within me. We all return to source. We all return to love. This is where we came from. We're all light. But we also are human. So for so long, I was trying to get people to understand, like, you are so much more. We are infinite beings. Trying to get people to see the truth and be like, okay, well, like, that's your fault. Like, you don't appreciate the truth. Not understand. You come across as, like, insane. It comes across as you think you're better than other people. You think you know something that people don't, and maybe you do. That's not their path. Like, say if someone's gonna be a figure skater, why do they need to know about spirituality? Like, that's what they came here to do. They came here to, experience love and having a loving, kind relationship, and they came here to experience the movement of body and understand and flow in a different way and trust within themselves. And that's how they learn it, is through figure skating. They don't need to know about this. It doesn't make them on a lesser journey to know. They're just like, that's their life they chose. And say if someone came here and they want to clear a lot of karma, so there's already this destruction happening in the world, which is not the divine, but they're going to be a sacrifice themselves or something to clear this karma, or something like that. It is a privilege. So amazing to see the world in a way to understand you can follow what's within, and it's not about this like chance encounter. You can literally create your reality from what's within, from your mind. You can spread love, you can be love, you can do all these things. It's so magical. It is. But it's just not everyone's path. For a long time, I just did not understand what's the point of incarnating if most souls don't remember their incarnation, versus souls that are awakening, they have the potential or the ability to like remember their incarnation. Everyone's awakening is different. To remember their incarnation, and to also potentially remember past lives. I mean, tapping into the soul is like a really, really real thing. A long time I was like, well, why is it that some souls are awakened? I do believe it goes down to the soul contract. And I do also believe it's about the devotion to the purity of the vessel. And I think purity is a word that is wildly misunderstood. I mean, religion talks about purity in one way, but to me, purity is about where does your heart lie. It's about the heart, and it's also about the vessel. Everyone I know that is awakened treats their vessel like it's like this sacred temple, and eats. Okay, there's no rules in spirituality, but like pretty much eats healthy, and I know some people that drink and eat steak or whatever. There's no rules in spirituality. That's religion. This is the vessel your soul chose for execution on a mission. It's interesting because there are certain environments I was around people, and it did feel like if you had like any ambition to do the mission that you incarnated to do, it was kind of, oh, you care about attachments, or there's a kind of like this projection where I felt being in certain environments with certain people, especially in Bali, I just felt for the most case, a lot of people are in the state of like avoidance. Spirituality has become their entire life. I think it's a trap. Like, I think it's like, honestly, it can be a trap, because when you go so far into different dimension, it's hard to care about this world or this dimension. But I do believe, no, this is like what we're here to do. Anyways, my first awakening was, again, like very dramatic, but I was so happy and I was so content. I just felt like even though there's so much pain and tears, there's destruction and complete emptiness I felt from this ego death, and like hollowness within me, despair, grief. And even though it was gut-wrenching, and I physically felt my heart break me open, physically felt pain in my heart. That's awakened me. But that was all part, I believe, the soul conscious. That was the catalyst to awaken me, because my body could not take any more pain, like it could not take any more trauma, and that's what woke me up, and I needed it. So there's always a blessing in the breaking, but I also remembered in that breaking, like, still being grateful, because wow, like, this is painful because of this heartbreak. This is painful because I'm seeing the world in a whole new way. It's painful, but it was also beautiful, and I was a blessing, and I was grateful, and it was magical. But when you first awaken to seeing the world, it's like you're like seeing the world for the first time. You're like a baby. Like, you have baby brain. And for me, I had to keep a lot of this reserved to myself, and I did, unless I was, I think it was very difficult for me to be around family, because my family is very, very, very unaware. A couple months after my grandfather passed away, and I remember going to a funeral, and at this funeral, I was like, to my brother, my brother comes and puts like a rum and coke. My family is like big drinkers, and I don't drink, but they're big drinkers. And my brother puts like a rum and coke on my grandfather's table, because they're having this funeral after party in a ballroom with like hundreds of people, and it's basically a rager at this point. But I'm just half crying, half smiling, and everyone's like raging. I'm just like the thought daughter there looking at the table. Anyways, like, my brother comes over and he puts a drink. He was like, yeah, Grandpa would love that. Here's a drink for you. And I'm just there like, he's not really dead, right? And like, what the fuck? That's just something you don't say. But I was so into that spiritual realm, and he is dead. His body is dead, and even though as souls we're eternal life, we're life, and our bodies die because our bodies are tied to this physical world, but our souls aren't, and our souls are infinite, and they carry codes and things like that. It just was so ungrounded. People were just trying to enjoy life, and that's not wisdom. To me, it's not spiritual wisdom, but at the same time, you become, how do I put this, like, you become more connected, but it disconnects you from other people even more, because you're just seeing the world in a completely new way, and that separates you from other people. I just cannot be around people that have dysfunctional patterns, like dysfunctional behaviors. For their own good, people in my family, I wanted them to become aware of like their extremely toxic behaviors and their toxic patterns, because I didn't want to have to distance myself from these people. But I'm like, I'm gonna have to distance myself to survive, because like you can't see how you're just repeating the cycle. Into my mind, I'm like, just break it. This can be broken. Like, you don't have to keep repeating the dysfunction of, my family will like scream at each other, and it's like dysfunction, and fight over like the most materialistic things. I was not raised with religion. I was raised with a religion of like materialism, I swear. Looking back, I'm like, okay, well, I'm approaching this in a sense where it kind of looks like I'm above you. I'm more healed than you. I'm trying to get you to see these patterns. And I mean, like, I was healing. Like, I felt like my whole family was dysfunctional, and I was the truth seeker and the truth teller, and everyone would make me out to be crazy for having like a human emotion, for crying or having something completely normal, because they're just so avoidant, and like, I have to feel the pain of my entire family when they're not willing to just sit with it. Even though all that's true, I did feel that, I had to realize it's not their lifetime to awaken. A lot goes back to this, like, it's just not everyone's lifetime to see through patterns and understand that everyone in front of us, we get presented the same people and love and certain things until we break the cycle. It's not people's time to understand that and to try to project that and try to get other people to heal, even if it does come from this place of love, and like, you want them to heal so they can be in your lives in this like harmonious way. It's a lot of letting go of people. You owe it to yourself to not function in a certain way anymore. Once you see through it, you can't just go back to living a life that hurts your soul and that is going to keep you trapped and to keep you in suffering. This one's kind of funny, because at the beginning in my spiritual journey, like, I just was really quiet. I just wanted to learn more, and I actually became obsessed with learning more, and part of this I believe was like to my own detriment. It's not good, because this consumed me, and I've always wanted to know why. What's the point? What's the meaning of life? I always just was like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of this system, constantly questioning things before my awakening. I was just researching about like other people's experiences with the awakening, because my awakening was tied to the heart, and I put so much emphasis on that in the catalyst and the person not understanding. I put so much emphasis on like soul contracts, and even soul contracts to my family, and saying like, oh, my whole family is karmic, instead of just like trusting my journey. I was still looking outside myself, even though I was shown, oh look, the world's within. This was all part of divine plan. Never made sense. Here you go. Here it is. It makes sense. And it was like all like a movie screen. I saw it. I saw it all, and it just all made sense. It was also like this presence. I've never believed in God. I never believed in God. I never really thought much about it before this awakening. I started to see synchronicities maybe like a year and a half before, and all these things. All these things, I'm like, that is uncanny. Even when, my ex-boyfriend, the one that we broke up with through spiritual awakening, even when we met, we ran into each other 20 times. The most random places, and he kept asking me, I was like, no, go away. We just kept, literally bumped into each other multiple times. And I really did start to believe, everything does happen for a reason, and there's divine order. I wasn't conscious of it until my spirit, like my awakening, it was just all immediate for me. But there was just these weird things happening, and these crows, I swear, crows were like haunting me. I remember before, like, even looking up the meaning of like crows, and I did start to believe in this like higher order. But when I had the actual experience myself, where it's felt, it's like when something's experienced, it's like, it's not about belief anymore. It's like, I felt this connection to something so much bigger than myself. I was never lost. I was just on this different path, and I was never meant to fit in. That's beautiful. You do realize the interconnectedness of everything. I do think that there's a lot of downside. It's not all rainbows and butterflies all the time. I think that sometimes I just think ignorance as bliss, because being aware means you're more isolated, and you're happy to be a part of connection, but you lack connection with others more so now, because a lot of people don't think like this. Even though there's a magic to understanding all of this, there's also this magic to ignorance, to not knowing how things work. And again, going back to this researching that I was doing about certain things, it was obsessive. There's endless rabbit holes. There's spiritual knowledge has been here from the start of time, and that's why we don't need to preach it to anyone. I was preaching for so long, you understand, we're all spiritual. It was ungrounded, but at the same time, you're not meant to be grounded when you're first awakening. There are a lot of downsides to having awareness. Sometimes I do think about this. Would my life be happier if I didn't have the awareness I do? Before, I could be youthfully ignorant for the most cases. I've had a couple moments, but it's I had this before. I could do so much damage, I guess, in one sense. I do think if you were born to be an artist or a philosopher or something, which you don't really know you're born for until you go through certain experiences with life and you start to see life in a different way. I mean, that kind of is the point of art, and that's the point of philosophy. You are translating the way that you see the world. And yes, this is what I wanted as a child, to be a writer and to make movies and to do certain things and to create, right? But that wasn't the path that I went down, because of conformity, because of shame. By showing why everything had to happen in my life, being shown that from the divine, being shown how everything connects, I realized that no, I was given the best masterpiece I could ever have dreamt of, right? I was given this art and this different way of viewing the world. It's not this bad thing to not fit in, it's a gift. I started to look at it, all these things of not understanding, why don't I fit in anywhere? I started to look at this as a gift. There's pros and cons to anything, but I started to see, oh my god, the best artist ever see the world differently. They have a different story. So I started to try to lean more into that, right? But the problem is, you can be shown something and understand, okay, this is why I came to Earth, but you still have the programming and the conditioning. You can start to understand your soul as well. That's a whole other thing. To understand your soul and who you really are. But you still have the shame, the conditioning, the layers of trauma, like whatever you've been through. If you awaken, you've been through shit, because there is no awakening without pain. I do call it the karmic clearing, whether that's true or not. Like that's the way I have seen it through other people's observations. But I believe that people awaken. It's like they go through this karmic clearing, and that's why they awaken. It's like it was a test, and they got access to knowledge because their heart was pure, and also because their soul chose it. I actually do think that the more connected you are to your art, the more connected you are to yourself, the more connected you are to your art, and the more detached you are from external things. I think that was like one of the hardest things about my spiritual path, is getting to this place of bliss and realizing you could continue further, I could pursue and constantly stay in that space where I was very connected to that divine within me, and I was receiving these download messages where I was fasting and my body was a vessel for certain ideas, certain messages, because I was open to receiving them. My ego was down. I was happy to relay certain things. Also, like, we have a choice as humans, and I don't believe that's the destination. I think that's the destination for some souls, but I knew that was just part of my journey, and it's like something where I have to do in cycles. Like, that's my process. There's no rules, and that's how my cycles work, where I tend to go into extreme periods of fasting or meditations, but I don't do it that often. Like, I do it when I feel called to do it. And then there's days where I'm more creating and I'm more grounded, like today, and I haven't meditated forever. Yeah, I go on walks and stuff, and that's more of a meditation, but I don't just like sit down and like try to transcend this physical reality. Like, actually, I'm trying to be in this reality. I've already was in this other dimensions and had access to certain information, but now I'm like, I don't want to be in that space. I'm allowed to want to come back, and I feel like people like be like, well, is that regression? But I don't think it's regression. That's not my incarnation, to be at a constant state of like enlightenment. I'm not saying like I reached that. I just think enlightenment is something where you can reach it, but I don't think it's meant to be maintained unless that is your core purpose and soul, to be a preacher, to talk about these things. But even though I felt called to share what I've learned, it's not solely what I'm here to create, what I'm here to do. When we talk about this world is an illusion, this physical world is an illusion, we could say it's an illusion, but I just think that it's also real. This is where we are. Yeah, you can go into other dimensions and transcend this reality, but you're not incarnate in here to transcend it, again, unless that is your incarnation, like to continuously do that. Spirituality is the reality. It's hard to talk about these topics. It's hard to find words for them, because I feel like I don't have the right words in my vocabulary to like describe my experiences. I don't feel like 3D or 5D is like the right terminology. It's limiting, and I don't know the words to describe like what I want to describe, like what my soul wants to describe. I feel like when I'm writing, like I can more think about it, and I'm better at writing than I am talking. But I just think like creating things in this world, in this physical plane of existence, it's not wrong. And it doesn't mean you are less than someone who has like transcended and like doesn't need anything. Like, you can not need anything and still have like the soul desire to create something. Like, you could create a system, like a clothing company, and you can do it in a way that's ethical, or you can do it in a way that's completely new. There's all these industries that are toxic, all these things that keep people sick. Like, it really is like to keep people sick in this low frequency loop, and everything's plastic and toxic, and I totally agree with all of that. Even physics, like awards are given out to physicists who promote the 3D plane of existence. I think to create anything from like a higher level awareness is just hard, because first of all, it's not rewarded. It's suppressed heavily because they don't want people to realize like we are infinite beings and we can create our own realities. It's about understanding the divine flows through me. And when you walk this path of like higher self soul alignment, and the divine will is your will, you know, you don't have ill intentions or corruptions, and you want to create what your soul wants to create and what you came here to create, what your inner child wants to create, because it's all connected, then materials and things will be provided for along the way. We don't need these systems to operate. So these systems thrive off of you not knowing your divine potential. It's not to not do anything, it's to create from a place of soul. And I do think it is important that people are creating and they are building things that are physical, building new systems from a place of love and from a place of not harming other beings on the earth, a place of harmony and oneness, and treating other conscious things and people just like a understanding of karma and understanding there's a being in front of you and being a good person at the end of the day. Like that's, I think a lot of it's about like having good intentions and building new things, and other people can see like, okay, look what this person built from following like what's within. I can do that too, or I can be a part of that person's movement because I support it. And eventually people following their individual path of their soul like will bring the world together again. I have met people who are building these systems and like they don't really have like they're kind of like a little bit like aware about spirituality and stuff like that because they've been through hardships in life. But I know people that are building hands-on systems, and we ask them why they're building this, and they're good people are like, well, I want other people to live their dreams, and like they're building things that are good for the world, and like they don't have this like conscious understanding like, oh, this is the new earth or whatever, like played out like new earth embodiment. They are just creating things for themselves because they're connected to themselves. And that's the whole point of spirituality, is to be connected to yourself. So I do think that sometimes having this awareness, it is sometimes like even a downfall to like one's soul's old path, because it actually gets in the way of like you tangibly doing these things. You go into more building these things, you go more to your masculine energy. It eventually balances out. It's the yin and the yang. It's that inner union, that inner wholeness. I can't be all dancing around and frolicking around all the time. I love when I'm like that, but sometimes like I need to create the container for myself and to do other things, because I am this whole being and I can do these things. Spirituality is the language of mystery. Also, it's a language of knowing. You can know things, but they're within, and there's so much mystery as well. It's very complicated but simple, because truth is simple. It's all about truth and the truth of your journey. And as long as you are truthful to yourself, I don't feel like, again, like these words resonate with it. So I don't know, maybe I won't post this because I kind of feel like it goes all over the place. But that's where I am today with how I'm viewing all of this. I am so genuinely happy to be grounded, because for so long I felt like I had to give up all these parts of myself, and I was like falling into that trap. Like I felt like I just had to relay messages, and I felt like I couldn't think, and I couldn't, like I just had to let life flow through me. And I feel like when you allow life to flow through you and observe that as yourself, you learn so much. You do. But I do think that like it's okay to be grounded. There's other ways to learn. It's okay to, I can choose what my life is. I can choose what, you know, I know my heart, and I can build certain things, and I can do what I want. That is like me following my inner compass. I don't think having this awareness makes me better. Now I'm just like starting to keep my spiritual beliefs more to myself. Like I'm not trying to project these onto other people, which I completely was before, because I'm like, well, consciousness is the truth, and it is true. Like consciousness is true. It's just like not everyone needs to know that someone's reality is also their reality, and that's also true.